can have a thumbs up. Okay. And are any of the Zoom controls blocking your view?
No.
No, things are good. All right. So I'm gonna move this out of my way then. I guess it's only blocking my view. All right. Can I put this so it's out of the freaking way? All right. All right. Good morning, everyone. And I'll add my welcome to Kate. Thanks so much for being here this morning. As Kate mentioned, this is now the second year that we've offered the student-led research scholarship and creative activities grants program. And so yeah, we'll walk you through the intentions, the purpose of this program, what we support, um, and then activities that are certainly very valuable to the university community, but whose funding resides elsewhere. We'll walk you through the application components, the process for students, the process for your faculty mentors, and the timeline. And as Kate mentioned, feel free to put questions in the chat. You will all likely anticipate questions that we're going to cover. And so Kate might tell you, we're going to answer this live on the air. We will do our best to either in person or through the chat answer as many of questions as we can. And at the conclusion of the webinar, we'll also bring you up to date about other information sessions, walk-in Zoom office hours, where those of you who have specific questions about your specific application, right, can get some one-on-one assistance. Okay, so for starters, the purpose of this program is to support student-led activities. And so what I mean by student-led, so this is a project, a research, a scholarly project, a creative expression, creative works project, where you, the student, had a role in designing this project. You have some intellectual ownership of this project. So you are far much more than simply assisting the faculty member. So you're not just sort of doing their support tasks, right? This is something that you own. So something like, a senior capstone project, honors research, your master's thesis, your doctoral dissertation. So those are the kinds of projects that we're targeting through this program. Okay, and oops. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so substantial, original, and student-led projects, right? And as I just went through, so you're involved and you have ownership in part of this project. You're involved in the conception and or the design. You, the student, will be taking the lead on the project implementation. And our expectation is that you will continue to be intellectually involved in the preparation and the dissemination of the project results, right? Whether that be through conference presentations or reports or publications, as appropriate to your discipline. Okay. The project period for the projects that are selected for funding will be September 1st of 2025 through June 30th, 26, right? So for the faculty online, right? So these are fiscal year 26 projects, right? And so our goal, we'll share the timeline, is that a student committee will be reviewing your applications and making funding recommendations, and will be notifying applicants of the outcomes by late summer, right? So that we're good to go and you start your work in September. Oh, I see what's happening now. So every time somebody new joins Zoom, my computer thinks I want to be in Zoom rather than in PowerPoint. So that's why I'm hitting the advance button and nothing's happening. So everyone, I apologize if you see some delays in the slides advancing. That's what's going on. Okay. All right, so let's talk about eligible projects. Okay, so as I mentioned, for graduate students, right, we support thesis and dissertation projects. For students at the undergraduate and graduate level, we'll support culminating experiences, applied projects, capstone activities. Okay, but there are some things that we specifically and intentionally do not support. And again, not because, we're saying that these are not important, that they're not valuable, but rather their support and their funding reside elsewhere at the university. right? So we are not supporting course-based activities or in-class projects, right, that are designed by your instructor, right? So for the faculty on the Zoom webinar, right, so please use your department, your college, right, instructional resources for those activities. Okay, we do not support team-based projects, right? We are only accepting applications from individuals. We do not support any work where your ultimate goal is to produce an item for sale or for personal profit. Okay. The School of Business, though, does have pitch competitions, where that is, the goal of that program, right, to support entrepreneurs, right? So if that is the kind of thing you have in mind, I'd be happy to connect you with the appropriate members of the School of Business. Okay, and then we also will not support administrative tasks, all right? So things that are the more sort of task-oriented, but the less intellectual-oriented aspects, such as, we won't pay for word processing, for indexing, and we do not support publication costs, right? So we want to support the work of doing your research, of doing your scholarship and your creative work, right? So that is where I am choosing, right, to invest our resources. Okay. All right. And so as you are conceptualizing through the projects you have in mind, if you have any questions, if you're not sure whether or not what you've got in mind is a good match or not, please reach out to both Kate and myself. Okay. Okay, so who's eligible to apply? All right, so undergraduate and graduate students both are eligible to apply. So we will take projects from all matriculated students, provided that you meet the following eligibility criteria. All right, so this program is for those of you who are more advanced in your research. So the university is discussing preparing programs for completely new beginner novice researchers. Unfortunately, that is not up and running yet. So for this program, we're requiring undergraduates have successfully completed at least 60 credits in your program at the time of application. All right, so we're targeting juniors and seniors. Graduate students must have successfully completed at least 9 credits of degree program coursework at the time of application. All right, and so the reason for this is, right, if you're brand new to the university, you likely have not had time yet to connect with a faculty mentor. You likely have not yet had time to conceptualize a project, right, where we can truthfully say you have intellectual ownership of that project, right? And so if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh yeah, all right, not for me this year, please stay on the call because hopefully this will be you next year when we do the next round. Okay. We require that all applicants be in good academic standing, right, which for undergraduates means your cumulative GPA is greater than a 2.0 and greater than a 3.0 for graduate students. Now, I want to point out that the review committee does not see your GPA, right? That's none of their business. When your advisor does their portion of the application, we're asking the advisor to certify that, yes, you meet this eligibility criteria, and the review committee will not see any of that. Okay. And I stress that you must be enrolled in your degree at Montclair for the duration of the award, right? So once you graduate, then the award ends, okay? Or if you're graduating in August, then you are not eligible because the project period begins in September, right? So you must be a current student and continue to be enrolled next year, right, to be eligible for this program. Okay, eligibility for faculty mentors. Okay, so the mentors must be full-time tenured or tenure track faculty members, and either at the Montclair campus or the Bloomfield campus, right? All are welcome. So mentors, your specific portion of the application, okay, will include the following, as I just stated. You're going to be responsible for certifying that your mentee is eligible and in good standing, right? So you're going to be the verifier for us that they meet the credit threshold and the GPA threshold. Okay. We will require within the info ready system, and Kate is going to do a very quick overview of that in a little bit. We're requiring you to enter an assessment of your student mentee. So we want to hear from you about the student's preparedness to do the work that's being proposed. We want to hear from you about the student's intellectual contribution to the project conception and design and how it's going to be conducted. And then we're asking for curriculum vitas, CVs, from both the student and the faculty. And a lesson learned for both Kate and I from last year. There was a lot of variability in how CVs and bio sketches were provided. And some of the feedback that we received was, tell us what you want, please. What do I put in this? And so this year we are providing a template that we are requiring everyone to use. Okay. All right, and then faculty mentors. By participating in this process, you are agreeing to serve as a liaison between your student mentee and the Office of Research, and particularly regarding financial processes, right? So we do not give students access to Workday. Students are not entering requisitions and spend authorizations, right? So we need you, the mentor, to be responsible for that process. Or I should say, students will not be approving, right, requisitions and spend authorizations. Okay. All right, so most of this process takes place within InfoReady. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. All right. Okay, so again, that's the assessment that we're asking for from the faculty mentors. Right, and then one item that I forgot to include as well, we're asking mentors to describe how you plan to support your student, all right, and contribute to their success. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the components that the students are preparing and that the students are uploading. Okay, and again, these are due to the InfoReady platform, and you're going to see a demo of that, where to access it, what exactly you need to prepare and where you put it. All right, so that's due Thursday, June 5th. So when you log into the system, you'll see a number of text boxes to fill out. So we're asking for your name, your degree program, your department. You'll see a text box for an abstract. All right, and for those who are unfamiliar with an abstract, that's a very brief, on the order of 200 to 300 words. I think we put a 250 word limit on it, Kate? Yeah. So a high level summary of what are you doing, how are you doing it, and why should anybody care? All right, so I can boil that down to what, how, and who cares. All right, so we want you to tell us in a brief high level paragraph, what is this project about? And why is it important? How is this going to advance your discipline? How is this going to contribute to the body of knowledge in your discipline? How is this beneficial? Why does this project need to be done? Okay, and then the main body of your application is a project narrative. And we're going to go into a little bit more detail about what's in that narrative. So this is where you tell us the details of the motivation for the project, the methodology you're going to use, the tools and techniques, the data you're going to collect, right? And then sort of put it all together, connect the circle for the reader. Tell us how that data and that information is going to be used. How are you going to utilize that to answer the fundamental questions that you're posing, right? Or to achieve the fundamental goal of this project. Okay. We're giving you 1 page maximum for references cited. So that'll be a separate page. Your project narrative is limited to 5 pages total, right? But references don't count against that, right? So that gets its own separate page. Students, we're also asking for your curriculum vitae on the same template that your advisor uses. So that can be a joint thing that the two of you do together, figure out our template and fill it out. And then we're asking for a budget table and a budget narrative. Okay, so the budget table is where you itemize the expenses. Okay, so do you need materials and supplies? Are you doing surveys or interviews and you need participant incentives? Do you have to travel to a library or to travel to a field site in order to conduct this project? So what are those expenses? Okay. So The budget is communicated in two parts, numerically, right, and then in writing. So the numeric part is you're giving us a budget table, like how much, and then the narrative explains how does that expense connect to this project. Okay, and students, as you're listening to me describe all of this, know that, you're not expected to do this alone, right? Please, 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 right? Discuss all of this with your faculty mentor. Okay. Okay. All right. And then the faculty components, right? So again, there's a number of things that you're going to enter directly into the InfoReady platform, into the text boxes provided. Faculty, you will also upload your CV. Okay. And then there's a space for the mentor, right, to enter their attestation saying, yes, my mentee meets the credit threshold. Yes, my mentee, right, meets the good standing threshold. Okay. And faculty, your components are due 1 week later on June 12th. Okay. All right. So I mentioned last year, kind of a lesson learned for us was to provide some guidance for everyone about what we wanted in the curriculum vitae. And this is for the review committee. So the review committee is charged in part with answering the question, is the student prepared to conduct the proposed work? Right? And your CV is the ways in which you demonstrate that. But then we found that there's a lot of variability between the disciplines, and for some people, the committee was like, oh, yeah, I get that. And then for others, the committee was like, wait, I can't find what I'm looking for to show me that preparedness. And so in the program guidelines and the attachment that we sent out with the program announcement, okay, and it's also available to be downloaded through the OSP website, you'll see at the end of that document our template, and we'll make that available as a Word document as well. Okay. Okay, so in our CV template, the first page looks like this. And so think of this as like the meta CV, right? So we're explaining what the sections are, what the subheadings are, and what we want to see in each of those subsections. All right, so we want a header from everyone. So we want to know your name. We want to know what program and department you're in. And if you have an ORCID ID, I encourage you to include that as well. And so if you're not familiar with that term, an ORCID is like your research social security number, right? If your name is, Kate Smith, there are many, many, many Kate Smiths out there. So how do we know which Kate Smith you are? And so an ORCID ID is a way to sign up for a unique identifier where you can populate your research profile. So some of you may have seen Google Scholar or ResearchGate. It's a very similar platform, but again, one that creates a unique 16-digit identifier so that there's no like accidental incorporation of stuff into your profile, as I often see in Google Scholar. I didn't think Brackfeld was a very common name, but apparently there are other Brackfelds doing research out there, and sometimes their stuff gets pulled into my Google Scholar profile. I'm like, what in the heck is that? And I have to get rid of it. So look into it if you've not done this. The library and Siobhan McCarthy in particular is happy to help people explore this resource if you're interested. All right, in the education section, then we again want to know what's your educational background, what is your formal training, and in which discipline. And so here you see an example of how we'd like that formatted. So the institution, right, the discipline, the degree, and when. Okay. All right, and so you'll see this type of sort of meta explanation for all of the subheadings in an academic CV. And there may be some sections that, especially for students, who are relatively new to research, you may not have, attended a conference, you may not have had a publication yet, and we don't expect you to, and that's fine. But there's many, many other things that you've done that demonstrate preparedness. And so in this kind of italics section, we give you some prompts, what to think about, what to include. Okay, and then the next part of our CV template looks like this. All right, and so this is now the part that we want you to fill in. So everything that's highlighted in yellow and in italics, all right, so that's a guide as to where to put your information. Okay, and so when you're done, then take away the italics and turn off the yellow highlighting, make everything regular text. Okay, so the yellow highlighting, the italics are just to call your attention to this is the part you need to fill in. Okay, and again, if anyone's got questions about that, that's the sort of thing we encourage you to bring to our walk-in hours, our Zoom hours, and we're happy to help you with that. Okay, and there as well, I would also strongly encourage you to do this together with your faculty mentor. Okay. All right, so a little bit about the budget and what expenditures are allowed and what is not. All right, so student salary. All right, so you can ask for hourly student salary up to a maximum of $2,000. We will support travel for project implementation. Right, so again, if you need to travel to do field work, to visit a library, to view a collection, right, we will support that travel. Materials and supplies, incentives for participants. If you have services and fees, right, that are directly related to collecting data for this project, right, that is all allowed. Again, a lesson learned from last year, we got a lot of requests for projects that it seemed to us were already done. They were already completed, and the applicant was looking for travel support to present work. And so we had a lot of back and forth. And so we will allow limited conference travel, but it must be to support the results of this project, right, that you are beginning on September 1. And we're capping that support at $1,000. Okay. Okay. There are several things that are not allowed. Okay. So we are not allowing computers, either desktop or laptops or tablets. All right, so those are long-lived devices that will last much longer than this one-year project period. And so we encourage all students that if you need computing resources, to please take advantage of the university-wide resources provided by the Division of Information Technology. Okay, we do not support capital equipment, right, which is defined as one item or a set of interconnected items that cost $5,000 or more, even though I think that that limit is going up to something like 10,000 if it hasn't already, right? So we don't buy equipment. Again, that's something that lasts longer, right, than any one student project. And at the end of your project, right, then what happens to that thing? So we are encouraging, again, everyone to make good use of the equipment, right, that the university provides, right, throughout all of our departments, colleges, and schools. We will not support catering. We do not pay stipends or salary for Montclair employees, right, who already are earning their salaries, right, through their day jobs. We do not support mentor travel expenses, no honoraria, we do not pay tuition, and we will not do sub-awards. That means that we will not do a contract with some other outside provider, right, for this project, right? We're not transferring money to another institution, say for a collaborator, right? So all expenditures, right, all project logistics are managed in-house at Montclair. Okay. All right, so just a few reminders that everything we do, every expenditure we make in the Office of Research is subject to university guidelines, right? So all salaries for students are subject to human resources compensation guidelines. And if you will be a graduate assistant or a doctoral assistant starting September 1, right, then we also are bound to the graduate school's guidelines, policies, and procedures regarding compensation for GAs and DAs. Okay, and again, if you have questions specific to your individual situation, we're happy to chat about that with you one-on-one. Okay. All right, and if we receive a budget and there's a cost or a narrative description that gives us cause for further questions, then we will reach out to the faculty mentor first to discuss that item. and Kate and I reserve the right to determine what is and is not an acceptable cost according to university policies. And yeah, basically that's that. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to turn it over to Kate, who's going to talk about the InfoReady platform. All right. And then while Kate, right, is talking about InfoReady, I'm going to do my best, right, to answer your questions in the chat.
Yes, there are some great questions. I've been trying. There was one about a CV, recommendations for CV that I think might be better talked through. So maybe I don't think we have too much more. So we'll have a healthy dose of Q&A at the end. But okay, let me pop into the InfoReady system just so folks can see that. Let me share my screen. And are you all seeing InfoReady? Okay, great. Um, the InfoReady links, you should be in the email communications that you've received about this program thus far, but it can also be found sort of on our website. There's an InfoReady login link right here, but it'll kick you over to the system. You should know this website is used for all sorts of things within the Office of Sponsored Programs. So, the one you're particularly interested in is this fiscal year 26 program classified as sort of an internal award. None of the others pertain to this program at this time. Just real quick while I'm on this page, know that there's support documents here, an applicant guide, an overall about the InfoReady product if you need any help in it, but you can also always contact me. You all will log in using your net ID and password, right? For the purposes of this demo right now, I'm going to log in with a fake account, so you don't have to see all my admin stuff. But here we are. And you'll just click the hyperlink to launch into the program, right? Here is the general description of the program as well as all of the supporting documents. So again, the guidelines that Dr. Brockfeld has talked about, and the budget template, CV template as Word documents, right? Here are the guidelines. They're in here, right? In the guidelines, if you scroll through everything, here's the budget template, here's the CV template, which Dr. Brockfeld went over. But for ease of use, we're giving them to you here as Word versions so you can edit. But please know you cannot submit them as Word documents, right? They have to be converted to PDF and collapsed into one final PDF document for submission. So after you have everything you need here, you'll launch into the application. I've already completed one, but yours will start very much this way, right? It's very intuitive. You complete the required fields, right? Here's where you add your title, the proposal abstract. And yes, Dr. Brockfeld, we said 250 words. How much are you requesting? Does it involve human subjects, animal subjects, biological hazards? This is where you'll upload your one PDF of everything together. And this is where you'll enter the email address of your faculty mentor, right? And very clearly in bold, you must use the @montclair.edu. No at Gmail, no at mail.montclair, no at Bloomfield. We want the faculty member to receive an email and then be able to log into InfoReady and see the review. And in order for those two things to happen, you have to use @montclair.edu. So you'll enter that there. And the final piece is to certify a certification statement, which needs to be selected in order to submit. At any point, you can start this and save it as a draft, come back into the product, and it will be waiting for you just as you left it. And after you submit, you can hit this nice PDF button up here to save a copy of the final application that you submitted. Okay, so after you submit, let me just quickly, because we do have faculty members on the call, I want to just pop into, oh, now it does this for me. Sorry about that. I want the faculty member. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, no, there we go. I want faculty members to see what their experience will look like. There we go. So faculty mentors, you'll receive an email with a hyperlink. But if you also just log into say the student, we recommend that the student lets the faculty mentor know that they have submitted, just as a heads up. So faculty mentors at that time, you can come into the InfoReady system, and you should have something here saying you have a review that is due. You can also see everything. You'll have this sort of banner at the top that you can click on. Which one do I want to do? Let me click here. I have a number of test examples, but this is the one I want. So you'll get a page just like this, right? You'll be able to see what the student submitted, how they addressed all of the questions. This is where you'll see what they uploaded, their final PDF, right? It should not be a doc event, it should be a PDF. As Dr. Brockfeld explained, you're doing three things. You are completing an appraisal form, uploading a CV, and completing the certification statement. So again, here is the place where you would attach a CV. It's that Word document is here for you to use as well as a template, but we want it submitted as a PDF. Here is the attestation that you're going to be assessing the student in these various areas. All of these boxes can be expanded to make life a little easier for you. And then here is the certification that you are being asked to certify. Same thing for you all. You can save as a draft at any point and come back to it. Now, just know you won't have access to this until the student submits, right? So you want the students to try to submit before that June 5th deadline, perhaps, so that you have, if they submit at the deadline of June 5th, you have 1 week to complete this. So just know that. But you can always save this as a draft, and ultimately you'll want to submit. And same thing, you can PDF everything, their proposal, your comments, everything together in here. Okay, I am going to jump out of this. Let me stop my share. Dr. Brockfeld, if you want to share, I think we have a few more slides.
Okay. All right. So just some reminders about due dates and a little bit about the timeline going forward. All right. So again, students, right, your components are due June 5th. At that point, we're on our university summer schedule. So close of business on that day is 5:30 p.m. All right, faculty, your components are due 1 week later, Thursday, June 12th by 5:30 p.m. All right, our very first step after we receive your applications is to do a screening for eligibility. All right, so we're going to look for the attestations. We're going to make sure the applicant meets the credit thresholds and the good standing threshold. We're going to make sure that you're still enrolled and that you haven't already graduated. Eligible applications will then go to the student review committee. All right, and so I'm going to take a little bit of a tangent here. On the left-hand side, that QR code will take you to more information about the committee that reads and evaluates your applications. So I've the title of this program is student-led research. I like to think of this program as student-owned because we have a review committee made up of advanced master's students and doctoral students who are learning about the whole life cycle of research and proposals. And so master's students who are more than halfway through their program and doctoral students who have advanced to candidacy are eligible to apply for the proposal review committee. And this group will do a set of training on conflict of interest, providing positive feedback, among other topics that we'll look at. And this group functions like the panel of a state or federal funding agency. Each panelist has a docket of proposals that they'll read and they'll make recommendations. And then we discuss it as a group, and that committee will come up with a ranked list of recommendations for Kate and I. All right, so that's the group that will be reviewing your materials, and that review process and the training and the review process will take place during the summer. Again, with the ultimate goal that we will have their recommendations by late summer, and we can notify all of the applicants of the outcome, probably late August, and get your projects ready to go September. Okay. All right, and now we are happy to take your questions. And I see that Kate and I have been both going back and forth in the chat. So I'm gonna get out of screen share so I can see the chat as well. Unfortunately, I can't see both simultaneously.
And I love that you all are helping one another too, which is great. Thank you for doing that. There was a question about if I do a survey, would that be considered human subjects? And I can't find it now. The response was a good one, but I would just say for our purposes, we would probably want IRB to weigh in. They have something sometimes called a research determination form to see if IRB protocols are needed, or if it is simply an evaluation program that they don't need to. So yeah, you can select human subjects research no, and then just know we might, if awarded, we might have a talk with IRB just to ensure that that's accurate.
All right, so there's a question in the chat. The award period is 1 year. So it starts September of 2025 and concludes June of 26. All right. Last year, you may have heard from your classmates that we had 2-year awards. There were logistical challenges with that, and so going forward, they are 1-year awards. Okay, so if you have questions, you're welcome to use the raise hand function on Zoom. You're welcome to put your questions in the chat.
Dr. Brockfield, there was a question about a student who's graduating in January 2026. And I'm looking at the guidelines. I don't recall do we require them to be the full year?
So if you're graduating in January, right, then your project period is shortened, right? So you're only eligible for this award while you are enrolled in your degree program. So in your application, then we would need you to explain the 1-semester activities and the 1-semester timeline. Okay, so there's a question in the chat repeating the response to the survey question, right? So if you are doing any kind of project that involves interacting with people, then we would like you to reach out to the Institutional Review Board. So contact them at the email irbassistant@montclair.edu. Right. So Kate mentioned that there is what we call a research determination form, and that's a very quick 2 or 3 questions that ask you, what are you doing, for what purpose, so that the IRB can give you some initial guidance. And that initial guidance might be, we need to set up a meeting with you to understand more. Or they might come back and say, oh, no, actually, that doesn't really fall under human subjects research. You are exempt. All right. But we do want you to, if there's any uncertainty, right, we want you to go to the experts.
There was a question about for projects involving human participants, should both students and mentors be up to date on city training? Yes, but it's not something that's evaluated at time of proposal. Don't think you have to do that between now and June 5th. If awarded, yes, that will need to be taken care of prior to any award spend down. Same with any of these. If awarded, we'll do a compliance check to ensure these projects are ready to go from a human subjects perspective, meaning people are up to date with city and that they have IRB approval. Nobody can touch their funds until we have those in place. So you won't get denied because you don't have this, but just know you won't be able to touch your funds until you do.
Right, and that goes for the other sort of aspects of research compliance. Like if you are, a chemist or a biologist and you're working with hazardous materials that might be subject to our institutional biosafety committee, right? We would also want you to declare that in the application, right? And if you are selected for funding, right, then we would direct you to that compliance committee to make sure that you have all the necessary safety protocols in place. Okay, all right, yeah, Natasha. I saw your hand raised.
Yes, hi. Um, I just figured it was easier to ask rather than put it in the chat. So I had a question about eligibility. I'm working with a student who she's on the call now, and we had designed an independent study for her to work on a research project that she's going to be, the lead of. And so I was just wondering how this program can help support that type of project where it is part of a independent study. And then like a related question, if this program can't support that, I would love for her to go to a conference to present any work that comes out of this. So could we apply for this? Could she apply for this program just for conference funds at that 1,000 cap?
All right. All right, so I'm going to answer that in reverse order.
Mhm.
So no to applying to this competition solely for conference travel. And you and I can connect later to discuss that further. Regarding the independent study, so is the concern there about simultaneously like getting salary and earning credit?
Yeah.
So yeah, you and I should connect separately so I can hear more details about when the independent study is taking place, like which semester. Um, yeah, and we can go from there.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, there's a question in the chat. Is there a maximum number of slots available for this program, or is it based on funding? A little bit of both. So in the first year of this program, we made 17 awards. And so as I mentioned a moment ago, in that very first cohort, we allowed graduate students to have 2-year awards. And so we do have some projects that are continuing. And so Kate and I will need to sort of assess the budget and see how many projects we can fund. But my charge to the student committee, right, that's evaluating these proposals is I want them to recommend as many projects as they think are high quality and warrant being funded. So I want to know everything that they think is worthwhile. And yes, the university needs to support this, right? And then that's part of my job description and Kate's job description, then to figure out how we can support as many of those as possible. All right, so if anyone's on the call going, oh my God, this is too much. I'm not going to do this. The odds are against me. Please train yourself out of that mindset, right? If you don't apply, I can guarantee, right? The odds are 0, right? You have to be in it to win it. So I hope you think that it's a worthwhile use of your time. There are a lot of professional societies, professional organizations that offer student research funding, small grants in aid of research, conference travel grants. So anything that you prepare for this competition, I think is really good material for a host of additional applications that can help you down the line. Right. So even if you're not selected for funding, I think the exercise of preparing this proposal, I think, is beneficial. Okay, but I also think the odds are pretty good. Again, I can't remember. We got something on the order of what, like 40 applications last year. Am I remembering that?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Right, of which we funded 17.
There is another hand up from Mailani Ariza.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I just had a quick question. It's kind of a two-part. I'm currently a master's student in Spanish at Montclair. So my question would be one, am I able to do my research in Spanish? Not necessarily the application, of course, that would be done in English. But continuing further research, could I continue that in Spanish?
I want to make sure I understand the question. Are you asking to submit your application materials in Spanish, or are you asking?
No, that would be in English mainly because of the committee and making sure everyone understands what exactly I intend to do, but rather the full research project.
Oh, yeah, that's absolutely fine. If that is the nature of your project, then yes, we don't. Yeah, so we're agnostic really on the content. We support any type of scholarship that's being conducted all across the university.
Perfect. Thank you. And then my second question, also because I want this project to be correlated with my master's thesis for the curriculum, there's a specific course that I would have to enroll myself in for the master's thesis. Would I enroll myself in that course for the fall or the spring, being that it's a 1-year award?
So are you referring to 698?
Yes, 698.
All right, so I don't remember who's the graduate program coordinator in your department, but I'm going to recommend that you connect with that individual, because every program's a little bit different as to when they advise their students to enroll in those credits.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Stephanie, there was a question about, do we need to finish the research project within 25-26? Does the project need to be concluded? Does the research need to be concluded by June 30th, 2026? And what would you say to that?
All right, so there's a few faculty still on the line. Faculty, is the research ever finished? Anyone? No.
No, it grows.
So no, we're not expecting you to have, like a publication, by June 30th. So the project will evolve, as it does. The group that's finishing their projects right now, we're asking them to do a final report. And so we're asking them to, to walk us through, what did you do? What were the major activities that you conducted? What are the results to date? And I fully expect that many of them are going to tell us that, work is still in progress. We'd like to hear what their plans are for the future for sharing the results of this project. I'm guessing that a number of them are probably going to attend conferences this coming fall to present the work that they did this previous year. And so, no, we don't have an expectation, of a certain level of productivity, over the project period, right? And every discipline's different. Right. So, yeah, it will evolve as it evolves. Okay. All right. So I see there's a hand raised. Maria.
Hi, Stephanie. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Good to see you. My student Milani Ariza just made a couple of very good questions. We were talking yesterday about the whole project, and I have a particular question about the budget, about human subjects incentives. Because our project involves participants at a later stage. We're going to do reception studies of audio description for blind and low visual participants. Some of the participants may be in the US, but some of the participants are going to be reached via email in other Spanish-speaking countries. So how does it work in terms of the human subjects incentives? Are you guys thinking about gift cards? Or, for example, in my department, when we have incentives for the students, we give them via email a gift card, but all the students are in the US. So how do we do that in this case?
We're going to have to, Kate and I are going to have to think about the logistics of that.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it's not
Okay.
just us, but all of this happens within the context of university policies and procedures. So how to, anybody doing research at Montclair that has human subjects incentives in other countries, how is that addressed? We have been using Amazon gift cards or these giftogram gift cards, all have been electronic for the most part. But I don't think we've had the question about international subjects and
Yeah.
what changes in that. So
Exactly. First of all, because if it's not possible, maybe we have to reshape our narrative in the research proposal because we have a limited number that we can contact in the US. However, if we open up the participants, the pool of participants to other Spanish-speaking countries, the benefits of the research are going to be obvious, but we have to know in advance if that is possible or not, to include participants and give them incentives in other countries.
okay, I will start some conversations with accounts payable. And we'll see how far we get. It's also a fiscal year close for them. So, can you and I follow up
Of course,
online?
and that
offline?
wouldn't be until the later stage of the research. So we are
Yeah.
talking about the spring semester.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it wouldn't be this fiscal year.
Right. I just meant accounts payable now. If me reaching out with this sort of bigger question when they're all consumed with the
Oh,
current
okay. Yeah,
fiscal
they're
year
busy with
close,
other things.
I might not get the most quick response, but we'll give our best shot, and I will do my best.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Right.
Bro.
To address one of the questions in the chat. Right. So I'm gonna condense Mateo's question, but it basically concerns sharing resources. Okay, so every project for this program must be done under the supervision of a faculty mentor. Right. And so if your mentor is agreeing to support you in this, my sincerest hope, right, is that that extends to they will share their existing lab spaces, their existing lab equipment. However, it is perfectly understandable that the faculty member, would say we use a lot of what's called consumables, right? So things that you use once and then they're either used up or, it's like one pipette per sample, right? And then it's dirty and you need another pipette. That's materials and supplies. So that's the sort of thing that you should include in this project budget. Okay, and if you need a piece of equipment that does not exist at Montclair, then you can also ask for user fees, right? If you need to, for example, go to NJIT or Rutgers or wherever and say, I have a collaborator and they're willing to let me use their lab, but they're going to charge me like $10 a sample, right? So you can budget that in this proposal.
And I will just say, the budget you put forward now is the best plan, right, for the year to come. But of course, things happen at time of award, things change. So there is a process, sort of a time of award to make budget amendments, budget adjustments as you see fit. So you're putting together your best plan, and the committee does review it and make recommendations on behalf of it. But no, there is some flexibility. You're not forever locked into it. Dr. Brockfeld, I just want to make sure, I'm sorry, did you share the last screen about the open labs? I just want to make sure people do know that we have those available.
Okay. Yep.
Um,
There we go.
Yeah, and we can hang on a few more minutes, but on our OSP website, there is a link to these sort of open labs. Drop in if you have specific questions. Next Thursday and then the following Tuesday, if you just want to pop in and ask specific questions you may have. Either Stephanie or I or both of us will be there to address them. So, and you can always, there are emails you can contact, I would say both of us, and one of us will respond as soon as we can. Okay.
So as I'm sharing my screen, I can no longer see the chat. So
Okay. There's a question. Okay, for the survey instrument distribution, I hope to do with the company to ensure wider distribution across the state after preparing my instrument. This requires paying the company. Can I include this kind of expense in the budget? Will it be acceptable? Yeah, that seems like a vendor relationship, a vendor-supplier relationship. So, again, within the context of the university, for any supplier or vendor, they have to agree to do business with the state of New Jersey. So that's a process to figure out at time of award to make sure we can actually pay the vendor. But yes, this is an allowable expense that you can include in your budget. Okay, there's a hand, Milani again.
Hi again. My question pertains to the budget and how it would be distributed to the applicants. Rather, like, let's say we get the entire 5K, being that I'm a graduate student. Is that given to me all at the start in terms of like the salary? Do I have to fill in a timesheet? How do the logistics work of that?
Yeah, no, the awardees don't actually get, here's your $5,000 check. Each sort of transaction, it kind of goes through the Office of Sponsored Programs. So if you're getting student salary, you're hired through Workday and you enter timesheets that your faculty mentor signs off on. If you're purchasing human subjects incentives, that is something that gets processed by our office. We check to make sure there's budget there, that it's an allowable expense, et cetera. So we are with the awardees through the whole project period. And we'll, even if it's, like I said before, somebody who wants to do business with this vendor, let's figure out how to get them into Workday and get them as a supplier and get a quote from them. We'll help walk you through that process. That's how the actual award gets made.
Thank you.
And let me just say, there's some, travel expenses often at this university happen via reimbursement. You put out some money and get reimbursed. That's typically how travel works here. But that's something, we would talk with everybody about to make sure the students are comfortable with that and work with accounts payable to address that. But that's the other big expense, travel. And there's a whole process for how the university handles that. Okay, well, we are at 12 o'clock on the dot. So I think we are good. We will send you the link to this recording. And as we said, feel free to reach out to Dr. Brockfeld and myself as you finalize your proposals. So thank you all.
Much for being
Thank you
here
so
today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Kate.